Hi, this is the Social Jello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Jello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Social Jello with Angelo. Today, the problem with Krav Maga. I'm here with Frass Azzab. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did. Very good.
And then, if I did my homework, you're also a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Is that correct?
Yes,
And
brown belt, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Judo. Yes.
Okay, and he's a coach and a martial arts instructor, and also the reason he's on the show, he also is a Krav Maga instructor, and we're going to talk about this. So before we get started, if you look up, for those of you, this is your first episode, real quick, Krav Maga on Wikipedia, right? The definition of Krav Maga is an Israeli martial art developed by the Israel Defense Forces. It is derived from a combination of techniques used in Aikido, boxing, judo, karate, and wrestling. It is known for its focus on real-world situations. That's your general definition. Now, any martial artists watching this, in the martial arts world, I have not heard positive things about, to be honest, I haven't heard positive things about Krav Maga. As a martial artist, when I saw it, I practiced art called Kaji Kembo, which has a very similar mix of karate, jiu-jitsu, judo, kempo, kung fu, boxing, wrestling. A lot of the guys do MMA as well. And there's a lot of combatives. So when I saw some of the stuff that I've seen, but Krav Maga is kind of all over the place. So just to kind of get the viewer up to speed on some of the stuff you might see when you look at Krav Maga, here is a quick video that me and Frass are going to watch with you, and then we're just going to kind of get an idea of what it is. So here's what I found when I looked it up online. This is a school out here in Japan. Let me center this out so we can kind of
Oh boy, I can see already wrist grabs. Oh,
so,
boy.
So this person gets a wrist grab. They get out. Some guy. They're kind of simulating, I guess, someone defending their spouse or their family member for assault. Throw the person to the side there. A few kicks, a few knees. Okay, can kind of. So far, I honestly don't have too much of a. This is where I start getting kind of finicky right there with the knife. All right, okay, I get it. He's got a club, and this is the part where I really, I don't know. I don't know. I personally don't like gun stuff. So, and then he's got the gun, and and he twisted it out and did like a Jason Bourne, John Wick thing, kind of. So, thoughts.
So here's the thing. If anybody knows me, you know how blunt and honest I am about when it comes to Krav. And I teach it very differently, to be honest with you. I do not belong to any affiliation for a while. There was a while I was part of one, actually two, when I first started, then kind of felt it was so watered down. And here you have to understand, a lot of these guys that come into Krav are karate or TKD background. Not being disrespectful to the art, but you're in Japan is different than you come here to America. Let me put it that way. I think you understand it as a martial artist. So that being said, and a lot of these dojos here don't have a good adult program. They got kids. So Krav came in and these affiliations. Hey, you want add a good successful adult program? Join this affiliation. Go through this training certificates. Boom, we'll help you. Boom, you got a program. The curriculum is similar all over the board. So just I'm saying this so you can understand why you see some of the things you see. Now, so I've been around that, and it never meshed well with me because I was working for someone, and he also understood that he just had to be because he has a contract with those people. So then when I left, I was pursuing more of my jiu-jitsu career and competition when I went and stayed in Brazil. And my background was heavy in judo and Muay Thai. And I've done combatives because, of just training here and there, I understand the concept. So when we got into that, when we were trained and another affiliation, and that kind of also pushed me to be better in what I see when it comes to combative. Again, they were just using the Krav name because it's a good marketing thing.
Oh yeah,
if you think about,
sorry to interrupt you. I should have mentioned earlier.
No problem.
Also, Frass has an instructional series on BJJ fanatics. I should have said that first. Probably should have said that first.
Yes.
So, because you're mentioning it right now, and like whoever's watching is kind of like, oh, what? So, yeah. Also, should have said this in the introduction. He's got instructions on BJJ Fanatics under the title of Krav Maga, but it was a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then you were explaining some stuff on the background of that off camera about why they decided to say Krav Maga. And then when I watched the comments, like, and this is very common with anything that says Krav Maga.
Yep.
Just a lot of trolls. And I've seen, like I said, I've seen Krav Maga be all over the place, but I've also seen some pretty legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like being done in a Krav Maga exercise. And then I see both communities flipping out. Like the BJJ community flipping out about how it's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because you have a weapon. And then the Krav Maga community freaking out because that's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you'd get just stomped on the ground. It's like no one can win in that situation. So sorry, I'm just gonna go and pass it off to you.
It goes back to the United States. Actually, this is the attitude they have here. Both of these styles. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I've learned a combative version of it, as it's been taught originally. It had strikes. I mean, let's go back when we had Hoist Grady come to the UFC. That guy walked in and did what he did. He didn't come and just do jiu-jitsu, but he did real jiu-jitsu, oblique kicks, palm hits. Just to kind of subdue, just to, close the range and get in and put the person down. Basically, that's what it is. So the funny part about that comment, so I got 2 DVDs they had to put them as Krav. The third one was combative judo jiu-jitsu. Now you get these guys attacking me, and then I go in the comment to them. I was like, hey, by the way, I'm a jiu-jitsu brown belt. What? I'm like, yeah, and he's a black belt that's talking shit. Suddenly he deletes his comment. I was like, go check my resume. It just never ends. It just never ends, unfortunately. But the Krav guys have initiated this, and the Jiu-Jitsu guys now are over the place with it. And so to go to my point again, so you got these guys that never had any sport combat training, first of all, have never competed, just to know that physicality of getting hit at. Never worked as personal security. When I say security, I'm not talking a bouncer dealing with drunks. That is not a complicated job as it's trying to sound. I worked the bouncing and I'm not. So like bodyguarding, that's some of the stuff I did. And on top of it, like I said, when you have to understand the nature of violence and crime. My college degree is in criminology. I studied the criminal mind, and I understand how that. So when you think about it, other than a lot of the hits, bam, 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 and all that, a lot of the real serious self-defense tips to tell somebody is just recognizing the threat, being aware, and getting away of it. Now, going back to that video, so because before, we're going to say, the beginning, I like the stress training. Somebody came in, push that, put that, do the headlock, get up, blah, blah, blah. Stick comes in, yep, fault. Very basic from ever. Now when the knife comes, knife is a major problem in the system. And the problem is they all think they got the way. And I'm telling you, one of my good friends, his name's Samuel Brill. He's a top-notch combative guy in also the Filipino martial art knife system. And he's actually lives in Israel. And he even tell you, a lot of people do a lot of fancy stuff. There's a kid in I think in North Carolina, 13 years old, killed 2 adults with a kitchen knife. It's just the idea. Now, don't get me wrong. Do I teach knife defense techniques? Yes, but I'm very blunt about it's a 50-50 toss. And you don't see me doing this hand stuff. There's a whole different scenario, but it's never the way. Gun, we teach this sounds like we did even in the military, but to be honest with you, it's still a 50-50. It's the press of a trigger. It can go up. The guy hold and our problem, everybody holds the gun like this. Nobody does that. It's always in your face, pushing you. If they're trying to take something, they want to kill you, they'll shoot you. If the guy wants to stab you, he'll stab you. The only time these parts, I think maybe these self-defense techniques can work if it were threatening with a gun that didn't pull off, threatening with a knife. You got maybe a possibility to jump forward and get it, but it's risky. It's risky as hell. But to be honest, it's the problem. They don't want to be honest about it because they never tested it. Now, how can you test it? Do you need to get shot to know if it worked? Do you need to get stabbed to know it worked? There's a maniac running around that got stabbed years ago and tell people he understands knife attacks because he got stabbed. So what does that mean to us? You just got stabbed. How does that make you a knife expert? I got stabbed and cut. Do you see me running around claiming people that I am a knife expert? You see? But that's the problem with self-defense in general. And Krav is in the lead.
Yeah, and like I said, there's it's a multi-pronged. The problem with Krav Maga is very many. There's a lot of different ways I can go here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if anybody following this, I also work with John Hackleman. Hackleman's the same thing. Like, hey, when it comes to gun or knife, getting shot or testing it by getting shot or shooting or stabbing isn't a way to test it. That's another problem. That's like another whole can of worms when you start talking about combatives. So when I'm talking about boxing, it's pretty easy to test it. When I'm talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, grappling, it's pretty easy to test. And there's another reason, right? There's a reason that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when you do Jiu-Jitsu, if you do regular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's nowadays, a lot of focus when you start on grappling and really focusing on that one aspect. And yeah, they'll start working on strikes, but why do they work on that one thing? Because we're trying to test that one thing. And then from there, when you want to get better, you start testing it on other styles, other things. But when you're testing that one thing, you can easily test it. Okay, let's see, does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu work against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Okay, well, I can grab a certain parameters to keep people from getting hurt. For white belts, we're going to take out leg locks. And we're going to do this little like experiment, if you will, to see how effective a person can be in this one thing. But like you just mentioned earlier, if we're talking about the problem of Krav Maga, and I think we're broadening now to the problem with combatives in general, it is very difficult to test it. Yeah, there's ways to test it, but
certain things, yeah, but you want to die testing it?
Yeah, it's like
I mean, do you want to do it, Angelo? Should I hold a gun in your face with a bullet? Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can do the whole airsoft route, and then the immediate argument with the airsoft route. If you're using an airsoft gun, for those of you who don't know what an airsoft gun is, it's like a BB gun with plastic bullets. Not the same trajectory, not the same speed. And again, what you also mentioned earlier is, again, I think one of the point that you made very clear very earlier is, if a person wants to shoot you, they're going to shoot you. Like, if a person wants to shoot you, they're not going to announce it. They're going to shoot you, most likely from a safe distance where you wouldn't be able to close the distance if they really want to shoot. Same with stabbing you. If someone really wants to stab you, but then again, you flipped it and said, well, now if they're threatening you with the weapon to get something they want, now we're honing in more on a little bit of a scenario that you may or may not be able to work with. Again, that's
Angelo, here's the responsibility us as martial artists need to have too. So this is why it's a double-edged sword what we're doing here. And I'm not saying just our conversation, but we as martial artists instructors also have the obligation to train and be honest. So let's get back to the position when we talked about knife and gun. Yes, it's a 50-50, but it's also does not mean that you can have a chance to survive. You see where it gets a little bit problematic here. But we have to be careful. Like, I see myself when I criticize a lot of stuff, I also keep in my back of my head that I have to be cautious also to be understanding that sometimes these things can save a person. How many times we have seen videos when somebody come in trying to jack a gas station, when they just grabbed the gun and moved it. It might look like crap, it might be not. It's just an intuition. And he just grabbed on it and ended up just headbutting the guy and let go. You see what I'm saying? So there is the possibility of survival, but you cannot tell a person, only do it this way, turn it that way. You know? Let's understand, teach him, let's say, with a firearm. Yes, the barrel's in your face, get out of the way. Some of the little things. And the way I teach it, I'm trained it with somebody, like one of them, my good mentors is Kelly McCann. You know, he's honest about it. This is a war veteran. He's one of the guys, I call him the godfather of combative years, and just wrote about it. Yes, there's a possibility it can happen, but even a possibility of you can survive. He even shared his story, and I quote him about his disarm story, that when somebody pulled a gun on him, this is the Kelly McCann. He said he slapped it off his hand, just a reaction. The gun flew, they looked at each other and ran up opposite sides. But he survived. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So it is so hard to say yes and no. So we have to be careful there when we speak about that. That's my only thing. As I come up, I was more loud, but as I start, I'm 46 years old now. I've been teaching for 22 years, and I kind of see like there were moments and stories, and I've seen even my students where they survived such attacks. But I think what's important more than any that is let them understanding the attack itself. How it might seem, how it might look, but we cannot make it choreographed like Hollywood. Now, there's times I get these rubber knives and I just let my students pound. Like somebody jumped them and he's continuous. One of them did escape, but he got punctured 6, 7, 10 times. Does it mean he died? I don't know. Where is it at? There's people that have been survived. Maybe I got one of my students. We were security guards together back in the day. This man, but it was an opposite of. I used to work at a bar with an Italian family. He used to work in a nightclub that was owned by Persians. So he was the knife expert, by the way. He was fast hands and all that training. He got jumped by the people he kicked out, and I was down the road, like just always talk when we see each other. And down the years, he became my student now. But anyways, he got jumped by 2 guys. He got stabbed on his head. He got stabbed on his back. He got stabbed. He survived. He took out one of them. But if you see the picture and the report, you don't know how this man survived. So you see where I'm trying to go with this. To be honest with you, I will say training helped him that survival instinct to fight back. A regular person that don't train, you understand this, Angelo, they will do this. They're just going to keep going, and he could have been gutted. So I think that's where the responsibility fall on us, to be honest with you. It's educating the students, being honest about the techniques, but also being honest, telling them the nature of violence and how it looked like. If I can empower them to fight back and survive and get away, that's a success story. It doesn't care what style or what. Let's be honest. Everybody wants my style, his style, your style. A thug can punch you and knock you out. A good hit. What style is that? Street thug style? You see?
And I think what happens is people do get stuck on styles.
100%. Absolutely.
And then on the internet, now we have an observer who may or may not train at all. Just be a fan of a fan.
Oh, my number one fan. Those guys are, man.
Now styles have fans. That's the new thing. If you come from, I'm older. I'm 42. You're 46. There was a time where we did martial arts and we'd do our martial arts and we'd go home and there was nowhere to post it. There was the best I could do is tell you what happened in class. I didn't have a camera phone. I remember my instructor once brought in a digital camera into class, and we're like, "Wow, a digital camera! That's amazing, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can watch our training later. What a concept!" So, fast forward to now, and the way social media is now, you can record everything and show it to everyone. So now you have fans of martial arts. So you got to kind of designate, even the people watching this on YouTube, we got to designate you into different categories. One really important point you made earlier was the idea of just plain old training against violence. Just plain old training against violence. If and it doesn't matter what style, for or against Krav Maga, if you hate Krav Maga, fine. And there's any style can have this weakness in it. If you don't pressure test what you're doing, you're gonna have a problem. And now people who aren't martial artists, and they hear the word pressure test, what we're talking about is the idea that someone is going to try to attack you outside of whatever you learn. This happens in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. How many times have you shown someone a triangle choke in the beginning of class? This is how you do the triangle choke. You post him here, put his arm on the other side. Make sure you cover both arteries. Put your legs around him. Now bring his head down. And you show them, and you drill it, and you drill it for 35, 45 minutes. And then you start sparring, and none of the white belts can pull off a triangle. They get stack passed immediately. The other guy, we've never taught these people anything. This is like maybe their second, third weekend. One guy, and maybe even a blue belt who can do a triangle will have a bigger white belt, just stack him on his neck and break out of the triangle. And we never taught them how to break out of the triangle. So again,
you're correct, absolutely. And to be honest, going back to that point you just said, you know what I explained to people Like, do you know what an attack on the street might look like if they didn't have weapon? I'm just saying, bring a guy that just trying class and unleash him. You know how crazy they go in the first row. You're gonna eat an elbow. He's all over the place. A hand here, hands on your face. You see what I'm saying? But when you're trained, you grab, you move it. You're trying to subdue. You see what I'm saying? The difference, how it goes. But I agree with you 100%. Everybody thinks it is a 1, 2, 3, 3. I don't do triangles, first of all, because of my height. Second, I did a neck surgery from all the catch wrestling and grappling I did. I can't have anybody stacking me. But you're absolutely correct. It does not need a blue belt to stack you. They all do it. They all do it. Suddenly, he sees it, and here we go.
Yeah, so again, like, well, and that's just for anybody who's from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu watching. Like, to give you a solid example of, you have a technique that is known in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world to end matches that work in a certain set of parameters works. But not even talking about the street. And this is why I hate talking about the street, because that's like the streets. I saw a meme once, and it had Simba, and Simba's talking to the cub, and they look over to the dark area, and it says, "What's that, Dad?" Those are the streets. Everybody talks about it, but no one actually knows what it is. I
like that one. I've seen it, but I like that one.
That's the problem. It's very vague. Everyone brings it up. Look, I've had the MMA fan bring it up, and now it's funny because now I've had the MMA fan bring up the streets. And mostly the people bring up the streets are combatives guys. And then the other side of it are the MMA guys say, well, that wouldn't work in the cage. And it's like these arguments that are difficult to pull apart, because again, unless you actually train, it's kind of difficult. Nope, nothing exists in a vacuum. And I'm not going to say anyone watching this show trains. This show in particular, I cover martial arts, so everybody watching this does train in something. Now, the biggest issue with all this, about when we keep saying, well, the streets, is if you, again, going back to the beginning of this conversation about how do you test getting stabbed? How do you test getting shot? How do you test fighting two guys that really want to hurt you on the quote unquote street where anything can happen? When you have these scenarios, there are, and the other elephant we have to face in the room is, there are people who do martial arts that are bullshito artists. That is fact. We can't just ignore and act like these people don't exist. There are people,
a lot of them.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people out there who will go there and say they're teaching you whatever art, whether it's Krav Maga or Kempo or Taekwondo, and in reality, this person can't fight their way out of a paper bag. And they're teaching their students, and their students can't fight their way out of a paper bag either, because they've never fought. They have never competed, and this is the argument that MMA guys have against these people. They've never competed. They've never actually, you did Muay Thai, but they never competed in a combat sport. So they've never actually had someone try to hit them. Like,
I tell people that one day, especially Muay Thai, I always show my forehead. I was like, this is just the roadmap of the elbows I took. That's why I know what elbows do. You know, I see what I'm saying. It's insane when they teach and do. I was like, have you ever ate an elbow? Have you? Like 100%. You know, it does a lot. But again, I'll share a story with you. And it's just, if I ever wrote a book, everybody I got to share this story, because it's an infamous story about me with Krav Maga. So you're going to like this one. I've shared it with the guys in England, and they just laughed and just put it all over the place. So I went work for this guy, excellent human being. He's very good martial artist. But he said, we got to get you certified for Krav. You can't teach, because he's part of this organization. And I was like, man, I'm just a grappler and kickboxing guy. I can teach those, the MMA guys are that. No, you're very good. You're a good teacher. So he kind of buzzed it in. And it was a good thing he did to me. And I told him my issue with these people. I was like, man, I'm just going to go. I want to choke all of these guys. You know how he's like, just do it. I just needed to get that. Let's just do it. So, we just be legit. You're a good martial artist. I'm not worried about you when it comes to that. Go in there. To get the training of the certificate. Long weekend, dumb shit. They don't focus on training. Nothing. No. Sorry, let me take back. They don't focus on teaching. It's more you hitting. Then you want to teach this. Hitting. I'm like, hold on a second. How are we going to focus on teaching the student where we're not understanding psychology of the students, first of all, the map, controlling the map, technique, a punch this way is a punch this way, how is people, you see what I'm saying? There's a lot. So anyway, it's more like, hey. So I got targeted because I walked in with my background. I am the striker and the grappler. They didn't like that. They want to prove they're better than me. I teamed up with a Kimbo guy named David Pantano. Awesome guy. Like him to death. He's older, and me and him just got together. We're beating the shit together, and we just like keeping together. He's a very cool guy. So the grappling part came. Let's grapple. Here comes one of their instructors, one of their affiliate, whatever he is. Big, looks like almost butterbean kind of size, back in the day. Not as big, but kind of has that look to him. And he is some 3rd, 4th black belt degree in that system. Yeah. Get into it, grab, snatch him, boom, I get his back. Just like that. I'm on his back. He started hammer fisting my groin. Like continuously. It irritated me. Yes, it hurt, but it didn't stop. I got pissed off. I put him to sleep. So I was mad. I was like, did that defense work? Like he was trying to get my eye, my fingers. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? I grabbed his other hand, wrapped him, and just put him out. So they got mad because in front of everybody I put one of their guys out to sleep. None of his so-called Krav Maga defense against a rear naked choke worked. I knew he was going to go out. I had it. There's just no way. Either if he caught me in good time, he didn't even wrestle the arms correctly, So first thing they do, they complain to the guy that sent me, I am unsafe to teach. That was their issue with me. And everybody was around. It was another organization that till this day, they said, no, he's a great teacher. And he literally showed a hole in the system. You're second belt, second dan black belt, whatever in that system. I walked in as just a grappler and a Muay Thai guy. All I did is simple. Snatched down, took his back, and just grabbed and waited a little bit till I start sinking in. He tried everything, and I'm like, it ain't gonna work, man. It ain't gonna work.
So in that story, there's a lot of different things that people bring up. A lot of different things. A lot of people, they always say hit the groin. They always say get the eyes. And this goes back to what you said earlier too about the trained and untrained fighter. There's like a lot of elements here.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that's happening here is if you don't practice grappling against resistance and all you do is a drill, some sort of self-defense drill, and it doesn't matter what style. Mm-hmm. This is now transcending past the problem with Krav Maga and maybe the problem of martial arts. If you only practice this as a drill with an unresisting opponent, when it actually happens, maybe against an untrained person, things will go fine. But against a trained person who actually trains in that thing, or even a person who's just a strong person who is resistant to whatever you're trying to do, it changes the entire dynamics. And one thing, so my students are always asking me, how do I get out of a rear naked choke? Don't get into one. I can show you escapes out of a rear naked choke.
But there's sometimes it's too late. It's too late. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it's like there's ways to get out of it, but honestly, the best way to get out of it, don't let someone take your back. Let's really work on that, and then we'll work on the shitty scenario where the guy's about to. But I'm telling you, once that rear naked choke is locked, and if that person knows what they're doing, I can show you something, but I'm telling you right now, you made a mistake a long time ago. Like this is like 100%. You made many mistakes. Your bigger mistake was way earlier. At that point, I can give you like a Hail Mary play that you can try, but the chance, and I've seen them. They're like, oh yeah, you try to find the gap, even introduce us, try to find the gap, put your chin down. Well, yeah, I mean, but if the guy's really strong, your jaw's gonna get all bent out of shape, and
you can really break somebody's jaw.
And then going back to what we said earlier, the parameters. In our parameters, when we're trying to be nice to each other, and we are trying to be nice to each other. Let's face it.
Yep.
we are trying to be nice to each other because we are all with our friends. We're not exactly with our enemy. Well, hopefully we're not training. Well, maybe some of you are trading with your enemies, but
No, man, it will end fast.
at the end of the day, we are trying to test it as far as we can without hurting each other. So there are parameters where we'll, if I see it, if I'm coaching a class and I see a guy's got a good RNC and the other student is not getting out of it, but being stubborn about it and putting his chin down, I see that face they're making, I'll break it up. If he's not smart enough to tap out, especially if they're a beginner, I don't want to see someone's jaw I don't want them to learn that their jaw can be broken by their jaw being broken.
I mean, let's be honest, Angelo, the stuff we teach can cause permanent damage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And can kill someone. It can. If somebody held an RNC, you gotta put somebody out and they'll die.
Yeah.
You know, I've been part of a case where this dumb bouncer shows you training is stupid, got his arm, so he blocked the carotid artery completely, okay? Grabbed and lashed on the trap. Fine, I do that if I'm moving somebody, but I loosen up because I don't know what drugs they're on because the heartbeats are racing. Drunk, everything can go on, you know? Grab them. And when I looked at the footage, because I was a professional witness and it didn't was favor for that place at all. When I watched the footage, I can see already the body rattle, which yeah, it was bad. It was bad. He was a big dude in the way he grabbed him. But what happened, and it proved from the autopsy, he stroked out. Because when he grabbed him and let a little bit go, there was a clot hit the guy's brain. But you see, even in class, let's say we're testing. I got a 7-year-old that comes trains with us. I forbid anybody try chokes on him. He's training. He comes and tries. Amazing guy. And I'm learning. It's like, you're not going to get choked. Why? I was like, oh, no, you're not. You are not. We're not going to risk this here. But you see, it's hard to catch up. But just to get to everything we teach, does have a consequences to it. So it is, like you said, we want to test it. We want people to drill. Plus, we want people to go home safe and then go back to their jobs. We as coaches, we need, you know, I know people say, well, it's money and training. It's like, hold on a second, it's still a business. We need some people paying so we can teach. So if I'm a guy that everybody's getting hurt, who wants to train with us? You see my point? But it's just to get, it's the best way to put it, like me and you have discussed. There's so much we can do to pressure test things. At the end of the day, our responsibility as coaches is to educate them to pay attention to violence and just the whole scenario. Not to drag this, I will tell you one example. I had this 2 young girls, 18 years old, or I think 18, yes. Hitting me up. It started on Instagram, then went to my business cell phone. They want training if we got. I was like, training for what? And I was like, do you want to be a member? No, I'm traveling in 2 days. I'm like, okay. So they want personal training. They sat, and I didn't sit and teach them techniques. I was like, what are you going to learn? You know, in 24 hours, I can show you certain things if someone got. All I did, I literally typed out an entire thing for them. I made sure it's texted them, emailed to them, and gave to them how traveling international to the countries they're going, what is the crime rate, what to look for, how to walk around safely. Literally, that's what I did for them. How to locate your embassy, and they were surprised. They were happy, to be honest with you, but they said, I never knew. I was like, yeah, that's your self-defense lesson right there. Keep this with you. What am I going to teach them, Angelo? 24 hours, 18 years old, going to travel Europe. What am I going to teach them? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
How to defend themselves? They never trained? Come on. But somebody else will take their money, will do this. You know, yes, I showed them simple things. I let them film them. I was like, please practice this. Just a common hair grab. Just the grabbing part, which is common. I said, that's like, please stay sober. Please stay away. And of course they laugh because I looked at them. I was like, you're going to Amsterdam. You know? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right. I'm not being dad because I'm a dad. So just be careful. And that's what you could do. But see, go to what you're saying now. When you're attacking Krav, a lot of these guys are not educated. A lot of these guys have any realistic life training in any of this. You see what I'm saying? A lot of them went, did a weekend certificate, opened a dojo, here's the formula, and that's what they do. And this is why the system. Is it a bad system? I don't think so fully. Is it? I think it's backwarded and old. Yes, 100%. It's not evolved. and I've been preaching it since 2012. Unless these guys in Krav Maga start involving more combat style, first of all, combat sports style training, because that's the pressure testing. You need somebody, you need to teach them boxing, you need to teach them kickboxing, you need to teach them grabbing. But of course, it's different when you start fish hooking and you start putting time. I get it. We do that in our class. Like sometimes when they grapple, I was like, put your hand on his face, see how annoying it is, you know? It's different than me and you, fist, you know, slap hand, fist bump, let's go do jiu-jitsu, grab each other's lapel. Very different. But how far can we make it so real? There's a limit. And they just don't want to be honest about it.
All right. So we are getting close to our wrap up. But as we get to our wrap up, for those of you, if you stuck around this long for this conversation, a quick bullet point of the problems with Krav Maga seem to be quick certifications. The people who teach it may or may not be legit, depending on their own personal background. So if you are looking to getting into Krav Maga, sounds like one way to get around this is to look into your instructor's background. But then again, even this is general advice, honestly. Like,
yeah,
this is general advice. Anywhere you go, yeah, they can make it up. That's the other. Let's not forget that part. Oh yeah, no. So this is the problem. The problem with Krav Maga, quick certifications, the person can make up their background. And at the end of the day, not a lot of combat sport drills where you can test it. Now, I think those are like 3 quick bullet points as you walk away. Now, I'm going to turn around and say, so that we kind of sat here for 40 minutes, mostly bashing Krav Maga. So like, what I am going to say is, even though I've never done Krav Maga, I've never done it. From an outsider looking in, I have seen Krav Maga that I like. In fact, when I first saw Krav Maga a long time ago, when it first came out, the footage I saw, I liked. I actually didn't have a problem with it. I only had the biggest problems I always have. I have a problem with gun training. I have a problem with gun training. I don't care what style it is in general. Yeah. I have a problem with gun training. I have a problem with knife training. So far, I've never seen any type of knife training from any style that I'm like, okay, I feel confident in that. Like I've seen drills that I like. I've seen pressure tested drills, and I'm very, very specific on this. Like where one person's going to try to actually stab you, and the other person has to try to not get stabbed. And it wasn't really scripted. I like those kind of drills. But
those are good. Absolutely, I agree.
But I've never seen hey, person A does this, person B does this. I've never liked it. What doesn't reinforce my faith in this stuff is I heard I forgot if you check out Stephen Kesting's podcast, he's a black belt in Brazil.
Oh yeah, I know Stephen Kesting, yeah.
And he's also a Kajukumo black belt, by the way. He mentions that sometimes once in a while.
Oh, I don't know that one. That's
he doesn't mention it too much, but I had him on my show talking about that. So he interviewed a combatives instructor who works for the police department. I believe he works for he trains people in the nationally trains the police department to deal with specifically knife attacks, and does all this research. And on that podcast, and I wish I could remember the name, I don't have time, but look it up. That instructor talked about how, first of all, the stuff that works, and they were mostly using gun. It was gun. So cop scenario, again, we go back to our scenario. The scenario is the guy's a cop. He has to distinguish whether the person with the knife is going to actually attack them or threaten them, or has a knife or doesn't have a knife. And the way they test this is they put a pillow over their head, a pillowcase, and they take the pillowcase off, and the person's there and starts attacking them. And in a few seconds, the person has to figure out whether or not the person has a knife, doesn't have a knife, and whether or not they should draw their gun. And he said he doesn't have any of this footage online because, again, this is he can explain a little bit of the drill, but he doesn't want to release it because it's to keep law enforcement safe. At the end of the day, I think, but he did mention at the end of the day, there was like 1 or 2 techniques that work well, and he didn't go into specifics on what they were. In that interview, Stefan asks him, so what did you find out? So you said there's actually some techniques. Yeah, they had like statistical analysis of the success of the technique. And they said, it's still not, as you know, you studied, and I have a background in psychology, I have a master's in psychology. So you have a criminology, studied criminology as well. So you know statistical significance, right? 60% or more. He said still can't hit statistical significance. Close, Close.
Yep.
It's close. We got it over 50%. So now we're not at the 50-50. We're getting 55, almost 60, but still not statistically significant, but close enough that I trust the technique. And it was like 1 or 2. And this is gun versus knife. So then Stefan asked him, have you found anything for no knife versus knife? He's like, nope. I haven't found anything. I have not been able to find anything statistically significant. When he said that, it just reinforced my intuition that I've seen in that. And this is, and again, I don't know if my problem is with Krav Maga. I'm now grabbing all martial arts and throwing them in the same thing. And I think as we walk away with the problem of Krav Maga, maybe you can walk away from this podcast saying the problem with martial arts in general is
self-defense. Self-defense.
The self-defense industry.
Self-defense martial, because it's an industry. I call it Krav. They're all lumped in. To be honest with you, I think the best thing we can tell. So let's say people are looking for some self-defense training. I mean, what is your fears? Is your issue the ground? You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things. I always tell them, when you look for an instructor, dig deep in their background. You can search. There's nothing hides in the internet. That's why I put my resume on my website. My name, who taught me, they can go find them and call them if this is real. Each one that taught me, their name's up there. So I don't have any of this fear about who or what. Even if some of them I went sideways, because, sometimes you outgrow someone and move on, I'll put their name there. There's nothing I'm going to say bad about that person, But that being said, you can't just say somebody, I've worked I bounced doors or worked the clubs. What if let's say Mary, the 56-year-old, she cares about what the club is going to be about. She doesn't go there. I'm 46. I don't go to clubs anymore. They gave me a good job, maybe for something to give them a, call certificates. My point is the resume is very important. I truly believe if somebody wants to do self-defense, I truly believe they should, in my opinion, honestly, and maybe ruffle feathers, but all the legit guys I train with should have something done in combat sports, felt it, understands it. It doesn't mean you have to be a champion. It doesn't mean, but you see what I'm saying? Grappling, I would say they did jiu-jitsu. I would say at minimum they should be blue belt or purple belt. At least they have the years of understanding the ground. But it doesn't mean they're going to turn you into a jiu-jitsu guy, but they have these. It's like when you told me your background, you literally have a hybrid background. You have little things, everything, and that's what it should be. That's what Krav is when they say combatives. It takes what works from each system and less time of training it. So these people, instead of spending 10 years, maybe a couple of months, a couple of years, they get better. Nobody can get better in 2 weeks. It's just impossible. That's a lie. Even a month, it's a lie.
No, I tell my students, because it takes, depending on the student, it can take 4 to 8 years to get a black belt in the system I teach, in the way I teach it. Everyone does things differently. It can take, everyone does different things. I'm going to have a lot of disclaimers here because Kaji goes, well, it should take 12 or whatever. It should take 2. Everyone argues about this.
Yeah.
I say it should take between 4 and 8 years, depending on how much the student put in. And then when they get their black belt, I tell them, hey, we just scratched the surface of this acronym here. I really encourage you to think about yourself as an individual, what you gravitate towards, what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths, and do a deep dive in one of those. And I really don't care which one it is, whether it's jiu-jitsu, judo. If you want to get more into grappling, whether it's jiu-jitsu, judo, catch wrestling, whatever it is that you want to do a deep dive in, learn more, because I've only scratched the surface on this stuff. Like, that's why I did my hybrid art, and then I went and did a deep dive in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did a deep dive into kickboxing, and specifically Japanese kickboxing in Japan. I did that deep dive after I got my black belt, because I felt that, yes, I learned some general techniques, but I wanted to know more. And I always tell the people, hey, you gotta go further than just this. That's not the problem with Krav Maga, the problem with Kaji Kembo. When you scratch the surface of something, you're not doesn't make you an expert. It doesn't make you an expert. I can't.
And they call themselves experts.
No, it doesn't make you an expert now in boxing just because especially when you study hybrid martial art, because whatever art you're doing, if you're doing hybrid martial art, you have to spend a lot of time in each part of your whatever makes up your style to become an expert in whatever that is. If for boxing, people always tell me for boxing, honestly, I can do some boxing stuff with you. And I'm surprised that one of my students won an amateur boxing championship, because I told him when he walked up to me and said, I want to do an amateur, I told him, get a boxing coach. So, well, I want you to coach me. I'm not a boxing coach. He's like, but I want you to do it. I'm like, if you really want me there and that's going to help you in some way, I'll be there for you. If that's what you want. And yeah, if that's what you want, I'll be there for you.
Yeah.
And I'll let you hit me and we'll do boxing. But I'm telling you, my boxing is not the best. I never competed in boxing. I competed in kickboxing. I competed in MMA, and I competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, specifically no gi. I competed in gi. Wasn't very good at competing in gi. You know, I lost. I told him I kept the trophy there just so much. I like to see the students' faces. Hey, you got silver. Wow, you got silver. I'm like, I got silver for losing.
Yeah.
It's not a gold. And by the way, he's like, oh, that's still a silver. I'm like, there was only 2 guys in the division, me and the guy that beat me. That's last place.
So, oh my God, this is funny because you mentioned self-defense expert and this one. So, yeah, I know we're running out of time, but I got to share this. So, you know, sometimes, you know, I am blessed that have students that have been with me. I swear, I think one of them is over 16 years now, still with me. Some of them I've trained since he was 15, like Stephen Carney now. He's been with me. Never got his black belt yet. I'm on his ass, but he's going to get it. But anyway, so you get one that is different. So I had this guy that came to me a couple of years ago, been in the same affiliation I was that I left, and came to me and trained, and I gave him his black ring. Now, to set back, this guy came with different alternatives. The one that wants the black belt to open a gym. Yeah. So he said to me, I said, fine, I can help you. I'm that kind of guy, just so what he did though, and this is what kind of made me distant myself from him. Other than I know he sucks at grappling because I took him to one jiu-jitsu tournament. He just tapped from pressure in front of my eyes. I said, all right, let's sign up for the other one. Let's go push. No, and he whined and bitch. I'm like, that's insane. Okay. So anyway, he went to one that he ended up sitting on a smaller guy. He won like whatever medal. There was just 2 or 3 of them. So anyway, after I did help him out with his gym and all that, I saw what he's doing, and he started reverting to the old stuff he was learning from somebody else. So I parted ways. It's funny, I come in and one day, I'm not the kind of guy to go look for them or in that. I cut you off and move on. Somebody told me about him and called him a jiu-jitsu champion, called him an expert in self-defense, and he's some 3rd degree now because he goes to Israel to get his black belt degrees after he got it from me. I'm like, what jiu-jitsu champion? He was in a tournament and they gave him, like you said, they just gave him medal because him and the other guy only were there. Yeah, I know. It's not want to rag on him, but it's just, so going back to what you're saying, that's a lot of it.
Look,
there's so much in there.
Just be honest. Like if you're watching this, if this triggers you, look, I am honest. I'm not a champion. I got some medals. Tell them, not a champion, not a world champion. That's me. This is me. Like this is me. Whether or not, if you think this is going to help you, great. If you need to find another place, great. And I guess there's no way getting this. I wish I could somehow get like to that guy, because you know who we're speaking to. We're speaking to the guy who puts himself on a pedestal and makes himself the expert and has all these trophies all over the wall that he got, and maybe he is legit, maybe he isn't legit. A lot of times he's not legit. Just be honest. Just be honest. I've met some of the best instructors that rarely competed.
Yeah, that's very true, man.
Rarely competed. But they were fantastic instructors, did a great
100%.
job structuring their classes, taught some great techniques. I walked away with some great stuff from them. Hardly competed. Not very famous people.
Yeah.
Some of them trained out of a garage. So like, again, for the casual person watching this, trying to figure things out, maybe you thought, however you thought this conversation was going to go. I guess the walk away point for you is follow your gut instinct. You're training somewhere, no matter what style this is, follow your gut instinct. If you're there and you like your instructor, they're being honest, you like what they're doing, you like whatever goal you have, it's matching that, stick around. It's not matching it, you get that weird feeling that something weird is going on, things aren't making sense, then you have a decision to make. Before we go, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Nope.
So before we go, is there any where can people find you? Where the social media contact stuff?
Social media wise, you can find me on Instagram, and it's at Frass Azzab. That's a lot of my stuff I do there. And you can find me on Facebook as well. Those are my two active. I got a TikTok. I don't do much on it. I'm working on to get a program up online for some training on that. So we're still good. But my videos are on BJJ Fanatics. And you can reach me on Instagram. I'm a guy that you can reach me. If you send me a DM, I got a lot of followers. So if I didn't get back to you, it doesn't mean I ignored you. Could have went somewhere, but I am very responsive. And like I said, it'd be nice for you to check it out and let them know. What I was going to add to tell you, Angelo, what you were saying, it's honestly, it's chemistry. And here's the thing. I think the number one red flag for an instructor, I think that would be a great podcast you should be on about red flags of self-defense coaches in general.
Yeah.
If you feel they're a tyrant, it's my way or the way. You know what I'm saying? And I am very open with my students. I tell them go seminars, push them to do that. And I tell them, I learned this from so-and-so. Here's what I modified in this when I did this. You see, this is how, because that's how they taught me. My coaches are talk to me like that. There's only one coach that was very narcissistic. That's why I didn't last after a while. That I've learned the red flags from him. I went under him, even though I was already a coach, and I got tricked. And so it can happen to the best of us until you stop paying attention to it. So I don't want our audience feel like, oh my God, I'm getting duped. Or no, it happens to everybody. I mean, Angelo, I'm pretty sure you crossed, and then you start looking into it. You're like, geez, this guy's a maniac.
Yeah. And again, and maybe, yeah, I don't want to drag it out more. I have too many stories about that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say thank you for checking out Social Jello and Angelo. I would also say I also want to thank one more time Frass Azzab to coming out last minute. Yeah, there's a lot of
Carlos.
Shout out to Carlos Delamayer for making this happen. You were supposed to be here, bro, but it's all good. And one of these episodes once a week. Social Jello with Angelo podcast, the Conversations with the Back Fist podcast that covers martial arts and psychology. Catch y'all next time.